The story begins by introducing Nolan Booth, the world's greatest art thief. He's so intelligent and skilled that escaping from any prison is almost effortless for him. At this moment, Booth is busy creating a perfect duplicate of Cleopatra's first legendary egg, because his next target is stealing the real one. Thousands of years ago, a Roman general named Mark Antony was deeply in love with the Egyptian queen Cleopatra. To prove his love, he gifted her 3 priceless jeweled eggs on their wedding day. For centuries, people believed this story was just a myth, but in 1907, everything changed when a farmer discovered 2 ancient eggs buried near the outskirts of Cairo. That discovery confirmed the legend was real. However, the 3rd egg was never found. Rumors soon spread through the black market that an Egyptian billionaire planned to gift all 3 of Cleopatra's eggs to his daughter at her wedding, and whoever could bring him all 3 would receive a massive $300 million reward. That's why Nolan Booth starts planning to steal Cleopatra's first egg from a museum in Rome. At the same time, we're introduced to John Hartley, an FBI profiler and expert in art crimes. John arrives at the Roman Museum along with Inspector Urvashi Das because he's received confidential intelligence that Nolan Booth will attempt the theft today. John warns the museum director and asks him to shut the museum down, but the director refuses. He has full confidence in the museum's high-tech security. John insists that Booth might have already stolen the egg. They head into the main hall, and the egg is still there, making the manager visibly relieved. But John senses something isn't right. When he checks the thermal sensors, he realizes there's no heat signature coming from the egg. John explains that the real egg is coated in gold, which should reflect the room's temperature, but this one doesn't. To prove it, he grabs a child's cold drink and pours it over the egg. Suddenly, the egg melts. That's when everyone realizes the real egg has already been stolen. Inspector Urvashi immediately orders the museum to be sealed. At the same time, Nolan Booth makes his escape. John spots Booth running and gives chase. Booth cleverly dodges security guards and manages to leap out of the museum. He steals a random man's scooter and speeds away. John jumps into a brand new Porsche to chase him, but crashes into a van, allowing Booth to escape. Later, Booth reaches his luxury farmhouse in Bali with the egg, but to his surprise, John Hartley is already there, along with the entire FBI team. Urvashi takes the egg into custody. John confronts Booth, telling him that he's studied him for years. He knows Booth started stealing at the age of 6, and that he doesn't steal for money, but for fame. Booth wants to be remembered as the greatest art thief in the world. Booth asks how John knows so much about him. John reveals that the information came from the Bishop, another legendary thief who considers herself the best in the world. The Bishop and Booth have always been rivals, constantly competing over who deserves the title of the greatest art thief. Urvashi arrests Booth, but explains that they can't transport the egg in Booth's van, so she takes Booth with her, while John transports the egg in a separate vehicle. But during the transfer, the Bishop strikes, swapping the real egg with a fake and stealing it. Later in Rome, John is sitting at a bar, waiting for his flight. Urvashi arrives with a bag containing the egg, but accidentally drops it. The egg shatters, revealing it was fake. John realizes Booth must have tricked them, but Urvashi reveals something shocking. She checked John's bank records and found $8 million transferred into his account from an encrypted source the previous day. To her, this proves John stole the real egg. John denies everything, insisting it must be Booth or the Bishop, but Urvashi doesn't listen, and she arrests John Hartley. Next, the story shifts to a high-security prison in Russia, where John Hartley is locked up in the same cell block as Nolan Booth. The moment Booth sees John behind bars, he can't hide his happiness. The next day, Booth tells John the truth. He explains that the Bishop gained John's trust by giving him information, only to betray him later. By doing this, she managed to remove both of them from her path. Booth reveals that the Bishop's real plan is to steal all 3 of Cleopatra's eggs and sell them to the billionaire, earning the $300 million reward all for herself. John points out a major problem. No one knows where the 3rd egg is. Booth agrees, saying it's the biggest mystery. That's why his original plan was to steal the first 2 eggs before worrying about the 3rd. Booth explains that the 2nd egg is owned by an international arms dealer named Sotto Voce. Booth has already gathered all the intel on him. Sotto Voce is a dangerous and sadistic man who actually enjoys strangling people. He has hidden Cleopatra's 2nd egg inside his luxurious mansion. Suddenly, guards arrive and take John and Booth to meet the prison warden. But when they arrive, they realize the warden is actually the Bishop in disguise. She tells them she brought them here for one reason, to find out where the 3rd egg is. She reveals that she already has 1 egg, and soon she'll steal the 2nd as well. The Bishop makes Booth an offer. If he tells her the location of the 3rd egg, she'll free him from prison and give him 10% of the profit. Booth refuses immediately, saying he'd never betray himself like that. The Bishop calmly tells him she'll give him some time to think, and that she'll return later, hoping his mood changes. Then she leaves. The next day, John tells Booth they need to work together. If they team up, John can arrest the Bishop, and Booth will officially become the #1 art thief in the world. John also reveals that tomorrow night, Sotto Voce is hosting a masked party at his mansion. If they want the second egg, they must escape the prison before evening. That night, Booth starts planning their escape. During their conversation, John asks Booth about his past, especially about his father, who was a police officer. John wonders how Booth ended up becoming a thief. Booth opens up and tells his story. When Booth was 8 years old, his father accused him of stealing his watch, a watch his father deeply loved. Booth swore he didn't steal it, but his father never believed him. For almost a year, his father stopped talking to him completely. One night, Booth saw the same lost watch back on his father's wrist, yet his father never apologized. After that, Booth stopped speaking to him as well. Eventually, his father sent him away to boarding school, and that's when everything changed. The next day, Booth tells John that the escape plan is ready. To distract the guards, Booth mixes glycerin soap with nitric acid, causing a powerful explosion inside the prison. As chaos breaks out, guards rush in, but John and Booth manage to escape, locking the inner gate behind them. They climb through the walls and reach a helicopter, hoping to flee, but soldiers open fire on them. John tells Booth to get into the helicopter while he holds the soldiers off. Booth starts the helicopter, and John runs toward it, but suddenly, the prison general attacks John with a bomb. John is blasted backward and ends up hanging off a bridge. Thinking only about survival, Booth begins to fly away alone, but John gathers his strength, runs, and leaps straight into the helicopter at the last second. The general attacks again, throwing another bomb. John opens the helicopter door and narrowly avoids the blast. Finally, they escape. Booth takes John to one of his trusted contacts, where everything has already been prepared according to Booth's plan. From there, they take off in a private jet. During the flight, Booth explains the plan. While Sotto Voce is busy partying downstairs, they'll sneak past the guards and enter his bedroom. But the secret vault door is protected by a biometric security system. It only opens using Sotto Voce's face and voice. John asks how they'll manage that. Booth reveals his deepfake technology, capable of perfectly recreating Sotto Voce's face and voice. But Booth admits there's still one more lock. The final password is stored on Sotto Voce's phone, which generates random codes. That means they'll need his phone and his thumbprint. The story then moves to Valencia, where Sotto Voce's grand masked party is in full swing. John and Booth arrive at the event, blending in with the guests. Booth tells John the plan. "I'll get Sotto Voce's thumbprint. You steal his phone." Just then, the bishop also shows up at the party. John approaches her and she calmly tells him she already knows why he and his partner are here to steal the second egg. During the party, John accidentally bumps into Sotto Voce and smoothly steals his phone. At the same time, Booth manages to get Sotto Voce's thumbprint from his cold drink. To follow their plan, both of them spill drinks on themselves and head toward the restroom. Inside, Booth hacks the security cameras, and together they quietly make their way to Sotto Voce's private room. Using their gadgets, Sotto Voce's phone and the biometric data, they open the secret vault door. But just then, Inspector Urvashi arrives. It's revealed that the bishop tipped her off, hoping Urvashi would stop John and Booth, so the bishop could steal the egg without interference. John attacks Urvashi, knocking her gun away. He and Booth rush inside the secret room, and the door locks behind them. As they move toward the egg, they suddenly realize the bishop is already inside. A brutal fight breaks out between the three of them. They use ancient artifacts and antiques as weapons, turning the vault into a battlefield. Meanwhile, Sotto Voce finds out what's happening and heads toward the room. The bishop manages to handcuff John and Booth just as Sotto Voce arrives. Booth quickly tells him the truth. They didn't steal the egg. The bishop did. Sotto Voce turns toward the bishop, and that's when the real twist is revealed. They were partners all along. The bishop had planned everything from the start, using Sotto Voce to trap John and Booth. Next, we see John and Booth held captive beneath a bullfighting arena. The bishop tells Booth she now has 2 eggs and demands to know where the third egg is. Booth laughs and refuses. So the bishop begins torturing John, knowing Booth has grown close to him. Unable to watch his friend suffer, Booth finally breaks. He reveals that the third egg is in Egypt, hidden inside a secret chamber beneath the Great Pyramid. The chamber was discovered a year ago, but it has never been opened. The bishop asks how he knows this. Booth explains that his mother was an Egyptologist. The chamber is actually Cleopatra's hidden tomb. When the first 2 eggs disappeared centuries ago, the third was secretly placed there for protection. The bishop believes him because she's read about the chamber herself. Celebrating their victory, the bishop and Sotto Voce toast together. But as Sotto Voce drinks, he suddenly collapses. The bishop had poisoned his drink. She takes the second egg and leaves. Moments later, Sotto Voce regains consciousness and starts firing at John and Booth. One bullet breaks John's handcuffs. John knocks Sotto Voce out again. John tries to escape but leaves Booth behind. He tells Booth he's going after the bishop. Booth stops him and reveals the truth. He lied about the third egg's location. Without Booth, John will never find it. If John wants to catch the bishop and clear his own name, he'll have to free Booth. John agrees. They escape together but end up inside the bullfighting arena, where an enraged bull charges at them. Barely surviving, they escape and flee the city by train. On the journey, John asks where they're going, but Booth refuses to answer. He says he can't reveal the location of the third egg yet. John then shares his own past. His father was a skilled thief, but on John's 13th birthday, he never came home. John and his mother never saw him again. Booth is deeply moved by the story. John tells Booth that all he wants is to catch the bishop, prove his innocence, and clear his name, and in return, he promises to help Booth reclaim his title as the world's #1 art thief. Booth finally tells John the truth. In April 1945, Berlin fell into the hands of the Red Army, and the Nazi era came to an end. Around that time, a mysterious man named Rudolf disappeared. Rudolf was Hitler's personal art and antique dealer. Legend says he was the only man who ever touched Cleopatra's third egg. Rudolf escaped Germany on a steamship headed for Argentina. According to shipping records, he carried 1 suitcase and 15 cargo containers, officially labeled as machine parts. But in reality, they were stolen antiques. For over 70 years, spies, treasure hunters, and law enforcement searched for what they believed was Hitler's secret bunker, hidden somewhere in South America. John learns that Booth's father was one of those hunters. Booth explains that his father bought that watch at an auction. It wasn't just any watch. It once belonged to Rudolf, Hitler's art dealer. That's why his father valued it more than anything, even more than Booth himself. Angry and hurt, Booth once smashed the watch, but when it broke open, he noticed something hidden inside. That's when Booth realized the location of Cleopatra's third egg was hidden inside the watch. Next, we see Booth and John in Argentina, following the map. After an 8-hour journey, they finally reach the marked location. As they dig through the soil, they uncover Rudolph's secret underground chamber. They open the entrance and discover a hidden facility inside. The lights turn on automatically, powered by a hydroelectric system. Deep inside, they find another sealed door. This one is locked in a special way. Its key is Rudolph's watch. Booth inserts the watch, and the door slowly opens. Inside, the chamber is filled with priceless antique treasures. As they search for the egg, Booth notices a rare 1931 Mercedes-Benz. He tells John the car alone could be worth $25 million, since only 3 like it exist in the world. But Booth is confused. How did the Nazis get a car this deep underground? John explains that the bunker was connected to an old copper mine, which the Nazis used to secretly transport and hide stolen valuables. Then Booth spots a box engraved with the name Cleopatra. He opens it. Inside lies Cleopatra's third egg. Booth is overwhelmed with joy, but at that exact moment, the bishop arrives. She tells Booth he really thought she would go to Egypt. She knew he'd never tell her the real location, so instead, she waited for Booth and John to escape sotto voce and lead her straight to the egg. The bishop orders Booth to hand it over, threatening to shoot him. Booth slowly steps forward to give her the egg, but suddenly Inspector Urvashi arrives with her officers. Gunfire erupts. The bishop and John both start shooting back. Booth yells at John, asking why he's firing at his own team. John replies, "They may be my team, but they shot at me first." The 3 of them escape using the Mercedes, racing through the underground mine tunnels. Urvashi and her officers chase them in multiple vehicles. As Urvashi gets close and attacks, Booth and John fight back, taking out the soldiers one by one. The egg almost slips and falls, but Booth catches it just in time. The tunnel suddenly ends. With no way out, the bishop drives the car straight off the edge. All 3 crash down into a waterfall below. Booth emerges from the water, still holding the egg. He calls out for John, but there's no response. Worried, Booth jumps back into the water to save him. By now, Booth truly considers John his friend, but John suddenly pops up. It was a joke. Moments later, the bishop also surfaces. Suddenly, John kisses the bishop. That's when the truth is revealed. John was the bishop's partner all along. He had completely double-crossed Booth. Booth is left stunned. John smirks and says he thought Booth would figure out that his honest cop act was fake. Instead, he calls Booth foolish for believing him. Booth turns to the bishop and asks, "You even electrocuted him. Was that fake too?" The bishop explains it was necessary. That's how she secretly handed John the key to the handcuffs. She takes the egg from Booth, and together John and the bishop tie Booth to a tree. Booth asks John if the story about his father was also a lie. John admits the story was real, but his father wasn't a great thief. That's why John decided he would become better than him. Later, John and the bishop arrive at the billionaire's daughter's wedding. They sell all 3 of Cleopatra's eggs for $300 million. But once again, they double-cross their buyer. They secretly tip off Inspector Urvashi, who arrests the billionaire and his daughter, because buying stolen artifacts is a serious crime. 6 months later, we see John and the bishop relaxing on their private yacht in Sardinia, enjoying their fortune. Suddenly, Booth shows up. He explains that after Urvashi caught him in the jungle, he was sent to prison. But then he remembered he's talented enough to escape from anywhere, and that's exactly what he did. John asks Booth what he wants. Booth calmly replies, "I forgive mistakes, but I never forget them." He reveals that he called Urvashi and gave her information about John's secret offshore bank account. As John checks his balance, it's zero. All the money is gone. Booth tells them that now all three of them are broke, which means they can be friends again. He explains there's a new job, huge money, huge risk, and it's impossible to pull off alone. If they don't work together, Urvashi is already on her way to arrest them. John tells Booth to leave, but the bishop stops him. She reminds John that they've lost everything, and admits Booth talks too much, but he's also extremely useful. John finally agrees. The three of them leave together, ready for their next mission. When Urvashi finally reaches the yacht, it's completely empty. With no other option, she issues a red notice against all three of them. A red notice is the highest level international arrest warrant, issued for the world's most wanted criminals. If you enjoyed this fast-paced story full of mind games and surprises, hit like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing movie recaps, because the next story is going to be even bigger.